Right now, just down the road from me, here in Cape Town, South Africa, cameras are rolling on One Piece live action Season 3. Season 2 just shattered Netflix records, and the hype train is moving at the speed of the sea train. But as we look ahead to the Summit War saga, there is a massive, incredibly toxic storm brewing in the fandom. And no, it's not about how they're gonna do the CGI for Marineford. It's about Boa Hancock. If you look anywhere online right now, the entire conversation is dominated by fan casting. Everyone is arguing over which Hollywood A-lister, K-pop idol, or supermodel is gorgeous enough to play the pirate Empress. But they are completely ignoring the real problem. The harsh reality is, if Netflix adapts Boa Hancock and the Amazon Lily arc exactly like the anime, the show will be torn apart online. The character contains some of the most problematic and culturally difficult anime tropes of the 2000s. Today we're going to look at why Netflix must rewrite Boa Hancock and how they can fix her infamous simping and why her character is actually the key to unlocking the darkest, most profound themes of the entire One Piece live action universe. And if it's not obvious, spoilers ahead. Let's get spicy. To understand the Boa Hancock problem, we have to look at how Luffy meets her. After Bartholomew Kuma separates the Straw Hats at Sabaody, Luffy crash lands on Amazon Lily, an isolated island of warrior women who have never seen a man. In the manga and anime, this plays out like a classic early 2000s harem comedy. The women strip Luffy, bathe him, and try to rip off his golden mushroom because they think it's a weird disease. Netflix is not going to film this. But, okay, I could be proven wrong because they did the whole hypnosis thing in Season 2. But Matt Owens and the live-action showrunners have done an incredible job grounding the tone of One Piece. A scene of a woman non-consensually bathing a canonically teenage boy and making extended genital jokes simply does not fit the modern television landscape. Nor does it seem to fit in the tone of a season leading into a war. Instead, Netflix has to pivot Amazon Lily. They need to drop the quirky comedy in this aspect and lean entirely into a fierce, Wonder Woman-esque society. The Kuja are lethal warriors who use haki. They don't have to be all that fascinated with Luffy. Least of all, a somewhat powered-down Luffy for the live action. But here's one thing, specifically controversial, that has to happen. Luffy has to crash through the roof and see Boa Hancock naked in her private bath. Why? Because he has to see the secret burned into her back. The hoof of the soaring dragon, the slave brand of the celestial dragons. In the live action, the scene cannot be played as a peeping Tom anime gag though. Hancock's immediate reaction can't be anime embarrassment. It has to induce somewhat of the visceral PTSD-fueled panic of a former slave whose darkest secret has been exposed. Which brings us to the Empress herself and the biggest writing hurdle the show faces. In the anime, Hancock's defining comedic trait is that she's hopelessly, aggressively, and blindly in love with Luffy. She suffers from love sickness. In a cartoon, a tough-as-nails Empress getting hard eyes and acting like a schoolgirl is a funny subversion of expectations. But in live action, we're gonna be dealing with real human beings, heightened as they are for television. Pre-time skip Luffy is 17 years old. Boa Hancock is canonically 29. Iñaki Kudoy captures Luffy's boyish, asexual innocence. If a 30-year-old actress spends half her screen time panting and extreme simping over a teenager, it is going to feel deeply uncomfortable for modern mainstream audiences. It can shift from funny to creepy very fast. But I feel like Netflix can fix this without destroying her character. They can shift the motivation of her love sickness. They need to rewrite her infatuation from a teenage romantic crush into a fierce, almost religious reverence for liberation. Think about it. Hancock hates men because she was enslaved, tortured, and humiliated by the most powerful men in the world, the celestial dragons. But what does Luffy do right before he meets her? He punches a celestial dragon. When Hancock learns this, her love for Luffy in the live action should be portrayed as awe and respect. He is the living embodiment of the freedom she was denied. It perfectly lays the psychological groundwork for Luffy's eventual reveal as the sun god Nika, the warrior of liberation. Quick note here, it's weird that the giants of Little Garden would praise sun god Nika, god of liberation, and not Albath, which is the actual fighting god, but that's just an aside. But the problems don't stop at the writing. They extend to her devil fruit, the Miro Miro no Mi, or the Love Love fruit. The rule of her powers is simple. If you feel lust or impure thoughts towards her, she can turn you into stone. This works because in the world of One Piece, she is canonically the most beautiful woman in the world. But beauty is subjective. If Netflix casts an actress and the internet inevitably decides she isn't pretty enough, we all know what happened with another live action that was produced by the same production team. We've seen this happen with other fandoms. You cannot cast an objective standard of beauty, so the live action has to tweak how her devil fruit works. Instead of relying purely on physical lust, the showrunners should tie her petrification powers heavily to her conqueror's haki. Hancock is one of the few people in the world born with the disposition of a king. In the live action, if you bow to her, whether out of attraction or pure paralyzing fear, you turn to stone. This transforms Hancock from a pretty face with a gimmick into a terrifying Medusa-like force of nature. It justifies her powers without forcing the actress to bear the impossible burden of being universally desired by millions of internet trolls. If Netflix pulls off these changes, if they ground Amazon Lily, mature her infatuation with Luffy and make her powers about dominance rather than just lust, Boa Hancock will become the most important supporting character of the entire live-action series. Why? Because of one name, Fisher Tiger. In the lore, Hancock and her sisters didn't escape Marie Joie on their own. They were freed when Fisher Tiger, a legendary fishman, scaled the Red Line and burned the Holy Land to the ground, freeing slaves of all races. Think about how brilliantly Season 1 of the live action handled Arlong. They didn't just make him a cartoon villain, they leaned heavily into the systemic racism and oppression of the fishman race. Boa Hancock is the payoff to that setup when she tearfully reveals her slave brand to Luffy. She isn't just going to be dumping exposition, she's reaffirming that the world government, the people who employ Garp, Kobe, and the Marines we've been following are running an empire built on human trafficking. She's the emotional connective tissue between the systemic racism against the fishermen, the absolute evil of the celestial dragons, and Luffy's ultimate goal to be the freest man on the sea. Everyone is so obsessed with who's gonna play Boa Hancock, they're forgetting what Boa Hancock actually represents. She is a survivor of unimaginable trauma. She is a lethal empress holding an island together through sheer intimidation. And she's the first person in the story to recognize the divine liberating spirit inside Monkey D. Luffy. Netflix doesn't need to cast a supermodel. They don't need to recreate the cringy early 2000s gags. They need to cast an actress who can convey deep unspoken pain behind a mask of absolute arrogance. If they do that, Boa Hancock won't just be a fan favorite, she'll be the beating heart of the Summit War saga. But what do you think? Am I overthinking the anime tropes? Or does Netflix absolutely need to rewrite Hancock's lovesickness? And seriously, with the way the live action is adapting Devil Fruits, how do you want to see the Mero Mero beam look on screen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this deep dive from the southern tip of the world, hit that like button, subscribe for more live action analysis, amongst other things, and ring the bell so that you don't miss the next video. And until next time, stay free, pirates!